Welcome to the deep dive. So if you're someone who really relies on, the classic Outlook for Windows, you might have felt things get a bit sluggish lately.
Uh-huh.
We're diving into these reports about computers working way too hard, specifically really high CPU usage that just kicks in when you're typing an email.
That's right. It's actually become a pretty big headache for a lot of people who just prefer that classic Outlook experience.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it, just typing a message, something you do all the time, suddenly starts bogging down your whole system.
Exactly. We're
Yeah.
hearing CPU usage spikes, like 30%, sometimes even 50% just from typing.
Wow.
And you might feel this as, general slowness, maybe apps take longer to open, or
Mm.
if you're using a laptop, well, your battery life just tanks.
Yeah, it drains much faster. And look, this isn't just a random glitch. It seems to have popped up after people updated to certain versions.
Okay, which ones?
It started around version 2406, that's build 107.7.2.0.126, and shown up across different update paths, the current channel.
Right, the frequent updates one.
Exactly. Then the monthly enterprise channel, which is a bit slower, more stable, and even the insider channels, where people test the newest stuff.
Okay.
But what's really interesting, or maybe worrying, is that it's now also been spotted in the semi-annual channel, too.
Oh, the one that's supposed to be the most stable, least frequently updated.
That's the one. So it seems pretty widespread now across the board for classic Outlook.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this a bit. If you are on one of those affected versions, what's actually going on under the hood? Why does just typing cause this resource hog?
Well, the precise root cause is still being looked into officially, but it seems like it's tied to some internal process that gets triggered when you type inside that email composing window in classic Outlook.
Hmm.
What's interesting is it doesn't seem to be the obvious things you might suspect first, like, say, spell check running constantly, or maybe some add-in misbehaving.
Right, because people have tried disabling those.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of users reported turning off add-ins, tweaking spell check, and the problem just persists.
Uh-huh.
So that suggests the issue is, deeper inside the core editor function for these specific builds. It really shows how complex software like Outlook can be, right? A small change somewhere can have these really unexpected performance knock-on effects.
That does sound incredibly frustrating, especially if you've done all the usual troubleshooting, check your add-ins, and you're still stuck with this slowdown.
Yeah.
So what's the official line? Does Microsoft know about this? Are they actually, working on it?
Yes, absolutely. Microsoft has officially acknowledged the issue. The Outlook team confirmed they've seen the reports. They know about the high CPU usage when typing in classic Outlook for Windows.
Okay.
And they've stated quite clearly that they are actively developing a fix to sort out this performance mess.
Well, that's definitely good news for anyone affected. So any timeline, when can people actually expect this fix? Because, dealing with a laggy computer just from writing emails, that can really kill your productivity.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so based on the latest updates we have, Microsoft has actually developed the fix already. It's now in the process of being rolled out through their different update channels.
Okay.
The estimated timelines look something like this. If you're on the beta channel, the really early adopters, you should look for version 2505. Build 1 tier 8 OMI 2.15000. That's expected early May 2025.
Early May for beta. Got it.
Then for the current channel preview users, they get stuff slightly before the man channel. The fix is expected mid-May 2025. That's version 2505, build 827.2000.
Mid-May for preview. Okay.
And finally, for most people on the main current channel, it's the same build, version 2505, build Nanimet 800.827.2000. But that's scheduled for late May 2025.
Late May. Okay, so there's a staggered rollout depending on which update track you're on.
Exactly. Different schedules, different levels of testing, basically.
Right, so fixes are definitely coming, which is great news. But what if you're dealing with this right now? Late May might feel like a long way off if your Outlook is basically unusable. Are there any, immediate steps you can take?
Yeah, that's the tricky part. Microsoft has suggested a temporary workaround. It involves rolling back your classic Outlook install to an older version.
Rolling back.
Yeah, specifically to version 2405. Now, they do admit this isn't, the perfect long-term fix.
Why not?
Mostly because there have been security updates released since version 2405 came out. So by rolling back, you might be missing some important security patches.
Ah, okay. That's a significant trade-off.
It is. But they're saying for users who are really struggling with the performance hit right now, it's kind of the only immediate way to get things working smoothly again.
Okay, so how?
Hmm.
How does someone actually do that? Reverting software sounds a bit technical if you're not, super comfortable messing with system stuff.
It does involve using the command prompt. You'd need to open it up with administrator rights. That's crucial, so it has permission to change software installations.
Right.
Then you basically type or paste in a very specific command. That command tells Office, hey, go back to the specific build number for version 2405. You'd need to find the right build number for your channel, usually from the Microsoft 365 update history pages.
Okay. That still sounds potentially a bit daunting for some users. Is there maybe a slightly less command liney way?
Yes, there's another option they mentioned. You can apparently use the Office Deployment Tool, or ODT.
The DT?
Yeah, it's a more, let's say, comprehensive tool for managing Office installs and updates. It gives you more fine-grained control. It still involves downloading the tool and setting up a configuration file, so it's not exactly one click.
Right.
But it might feel a bit more manageable for some folks than typing commands directly into the black box of the command prompt.
Okay, so command prompt or Office deployment tool to roll back to 2405,
Mm.
but remembering those security caveats. Now, you mentioned earlier that the semi-annual channel, the really stable one, was initially thought to be okay. What's the latest there? Could just switching to that channel be a workaround?
Yeah, that was the initial thinking from Microsoft. They first said the CPU spike wasn't seen there, but they've since had to update that information.
Oh, no.
Unfortunately, yes. They now confirm that the issue does also happen in the semi-annual channel. If you've updated to version 2406, build 1200 enter 2milli6.20126, or later builds within that channel.
Ouch. Okay, so that escape hatch is closed then. Just switching to semi-annual won't necessarily save you from this bug.
Correct. It's no longer a reliable way to dodge this specific high CPU problem, sadly.
That's a really important piece of information. So the idea of just hopping channels isn't the silver bullet it might have seemed. Any other, temporary fixes people have tried or talked about?
Well, early on, there was some talk about using a registry key command, again, using command prompt as an admin, running a specific regadd command to force the switch to the semi-annual channel.
Right.
But, I mean, given what we just said, that the semi-annual channel is also affected now, doing that registry edit probably isn't going to solve the CPU spike problem anymore.
Yeah, makes sense.
Plus, messing with the Windows registry directly always comes with warnings. It's easy to break something if you're not careful, and it's definitely not something most IT departments would recommend, especially in big organizations.
Absolutely. You need to be really careful with registry edits. So it really sounds like the most direct, albeit temporary, fix remains that rollback to version 2405, despite the security concerns we talked about.
That seems to be where things stand right now, yeah. Rolling back gets you around the immediate performance headache, the CPU spikes. But as we stressed, you're then running older software without the latest security protections. It's a real balancing act, a trade-off between usability now versus potential security risks later that, well, you need to weigh up carefully.
This whole situation, it does raise some broader questions, doesn't it? You mentioned users reporting this since late 2024.
Yeah.
That feels like quite a long time for a bug that hits productivity so directly to hang around.
It is quite a while. And the fact that it took several months for an official acknowledgement and a clear roadmap for the fix, well, that's understandably led to a bit of, let's say, speculation among users online.
Speculation, like what are people wondering?
Well, Microsoft is obviously pushing the new Outlook application quite hard.
Right.
So some users have started to wonder, maybe aloud in forums, if these persistent problems in the classic version are, well, maybe an accidental side effect of resources being focused elsewhere. Or perhaps, and this is definitely more speculative territory, maybe it acts as a kind of subtle, maybe even unintentional nudge.
A nudge towards the new Outlook.
Yeah, the idea that if the classic version keeps having these annoying performance issues, maybe more people will just give up and switch to the new one. It's a dynamic you sometimes see, balancing support for the old reliable thing versus encouraging adoption of the new shiny thing.
It's hard to say for sure what's driving it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Could just be a really tricky bug. But you can see why users who are affected might start thinking along those lines.
Absolutely. Whatever the reason, the actual impact on people just trying to get their work done using classic Outlook is very real and very frustrating.
Definitely. And it really underscores how vital, stable, reliable software is, especially for something as fundamental as email. And speaking of reliability and security, this seems like a good moment to thank our sponsor, Stonefly.
Uh-huh.
Stonefly is a leader in things like enterprise storage, backup and disaster recovery, AI storage, and cloud solutions. So if you're looking for really secure storage, maybe something ransomware-proof, Stonefly offers solutions like air-gapped and immutable storage.
Which are incredibly important defenses these days.
Exactly. You can find out more or schedule a demo by contacting them at sales@stonefly.com.
Yeah, having that kind of robust data protection is just crucial for businesses and even individuals, really.
Okay, so just to quickly recap where we are,
Yeah.
if you're seeing that crazy high CPU usage just when you type an email in Classic Outlook for Windows, you're not imagining it.
No, definitely not. It's a confirmed issue affecting several versions, starting from version 2406, build 1.726.20126 onwards across multiple update channels.
And it can really slow down your whole machine and kill your laptop battery.
Right, but the good news is Microsoft knows, they've acknowledged it, and they are rolling out a fix.
With those fixes expected between early May and late May 2025, depending on whether you're on beta, current channel preview, or the main current channel.
Correct. And in the meantime, the main temporary workaround is that rollback to version 2405 using command prompt or the ODT.
But, and it's a big but, remember the security implications of running older software. And switching to the semi-annual channel is not a reliable fix anymore.
Yeah, that ship has sailed, unfortunately. And, users have been dealing with this for a while, leading to some of that speculation we mentioned, especially with the push for the new Outlook happening at the same time.
And one more thank you to Stonefly for sponsoring this deep dive. Again, if you need secure, ransomware-proof storage, including air-gapped and immutable options, check them out. You can reach them for a demo at sales@stonefly.com.
So this whole situation kind of leaves you wondering, doesn't it, about the long game for users who really prefer classic Outlook with its specific features and feel, especially as Microsoft continues to develop the new version.
Yeah, what are the long-term implications here? Is this maybe a sign of a broader trend, that constant balancing act in software development between pushing out new things and keeping the established familiar applications stable and working well for the people who depend on them? It's a tough challenge.
It really is. Something for all of us who rely on this kind of software day to day to think about.